you doing? This is Black Shy Guy here with another podcast episode. We are at the end of the week. Yes, I hope you guys have had a faithful, enjoyable week. And if things got hard for you, I really apologize for that. But hey, don't let it get you down. And as always, I thank you for sitting at my table. We're going to get right into it because the latest Tristan Tate and Andrew Tate live Rumble was amazing. They explained a lot. And don't let me tell you, I will be going through it. This may be a lengthy podcast episode, so make sure you grab your drink, have a seat while we dissect the latest of what they had to say. And they started from the get-go that this will be a very serious podcast episode on their part. So make sure you pay attention. And as well, I will be going through it in my own words and also explaining my opinion to what they had to say. And also an individual I think that they are talking about, but they don't want to mention names. There's two individuals that obviously sticks out like a sore thumb, but they don't want to mention names because obviously they just don't have time for the ridiculousness of online beef. They stated it many times. They don't want that crap. Obviously, they have reached a high level that they don't need to entertain stuff like that. And on top of that, they got things going on in their life, like the court case, that they don't need to be distracted. But let's start with this amazing live stream, Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate, where they explain the truth
and capability. This is going to be a very serious emergency meeting. We have a lot to teach you, so we strongly recommend you get a pen and paper and take notes during this emergency meeting because it's going to be life-changing. A lot of work's gone into the content we're going to provide for you guys today, but before that we have to do the most important thing, of course. So welcome to emergency meeting willing and able. We're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about masculinity as a whole and what actually makes a high-value man, because I get asked this question all the time. And I also notice there's a whole bunch of red pill creators and people on the internet, and there's a whole bunch of dorks who are popping up.
They get it wrong.
Who get it completely wrong, and they talk.
And they get it wrong because there's a lot of creators out there, right? Especially one for me that I do not like whatsoever. Does he have talent? Absolutely. But if you remember when Andrew Tate first came out, how brutally honest he was. Because he didn't have that much followers. He can wild out with what he needs to say. But now that he has the following that he has now that he's a public figure, now that every word that comes out his mouth, he's accounted for. He watches what he says and he treads carefully because he knows now that what he says, a lot of people put into practice. Why? Because he has become a high public figure. That is without a doubt. He has become a high valued individual to many young men. Whether you want to believe that or not, whether you wish to not put your feelings aside or not, he has become a valued figure to young men. Period. So now that he's established that, he has also not strayed, but basically went on to follow a religion, which I think was the best way to go because, I mean, it's, am I a really, really heavy religious man? No, but I do believe in God and I believe in his judgment. I do believe in consequences when you disobey his word. Because I was raised in the church. So I believe in all of that. And I'm glad that he's went into that realm. Because of the fact that, do I believe Andrew Tate has done wrong in his life? Yes, I do believe he's done wrong. I don't believe he's done the trafficking. Absolutely not. But has he done other things that I deem wrong? Absolutely, he's done. In my opinion, obviously, I do not stand above correction. So if you want to leave a comment on my YouTube channel, which I will also be posting this podcast on, you can leave your opinion there. But has he done wrong when it comes to ladies on the internet and you using them so they can make money, which the ladies have allowed? The ladies also agreed to it, but it doesn't change the fact that he was wrong in it, because he kind of trapped them in it. But let's not forget the fact that these are adults as well, and they are held accountable as well. It took two to accomplish that feat, and on top of that, they made money in the process. So let's not exclude that. Has he done wrong in the past? Absolutely. But the fact that he changed his life in this manner, and the messages that he's delivering to young men at this point in time, holds a great value to what society has become today. Let's continue with this emergency meeting.
About money, or they do a bunch of drugs and run their mouth, and they're a bunch of clowns. So we're going to make it very clear what a man is and what a man should be. And we're going to explain it in an extremely concise, compendious, detailed way. And I guarantee what we're going to do is provide you a blueprint to be the most successful version of yourself, and genuinely be able to live a life worth living and make an impact on the universe. Not only to your family and the immediate people who are close to you, but the universe as a whole. I'm going to explain to you some very important concepts. Some of them will be nuanced and difficult. Some of them will be very simple. But we're not just going to sit and do the normal thing. We say, high value man, get in good shape, get some money. We're not going to talk about the things.
I like the fact that he put it out there already, that's not what makes a high value man. It's part of it, but it's not everything. And I like the fact that he immediately addressed that.
Talk about all the nuanced small points that makes a man respected by his peers and respected by women. In depth. So we would like you to get a pen and paper and take notes and pay attention. And anybody who takes detailed notes from this emergency meeting, please tweet them at me afterwards at Cobra Tate, and I'll retweet, because I want to see the kind of notes you take and how detailed they are. So we have a lot to talk about. We'll be answering your questions in super chats. Anytime you can super chat us. All that money goes to TatePledge.com. If you're not sure what TatePledge.com is, we spend $25 million a year feeding people from war-torn countries all around the world, primarily children. All of our haters, of course, donate no money to anybody because all they do is hate. We're actually out here trying to save the world because we are Tates. Little rhyme there for you, Mr. Producer. So, I'm a G. You know. So, I am. So, before we begin, wait. There's a Matrix agent.
A mosquito.
From the Matrix.
There's a fly going around in their room, and they're calling it a Matrix agent. Basically, someone who's probably eavesdropping in a live conversation, which I don't get, because you're live, so everybody's listening to you. So
it's an agent, yeah.
Well, a little miniature spy ball, so we have to kill it with fly spray. Where is he? I don't see him.
There's a Matrix agent.
That is a mosquito, Andrew.
I saw him, and he's sent by the Matrix to take our blood. He wanted to get our DNA back to the lab so they can try and replicate us and create the evil versions of us which work for the Matrix, so the only thing powerful enough to counter us. Don't you understand? If that mosquito bites us, that we're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble. The only thing that can beat Andrew and Tristan Tate are the evil versions of Andrew and Tristan Tate. Dark Andrew and Tristan Tate. That mosquito is sent by the Matrix to get our DNA.
Yeah, because the geeks who are trying aren't doing a very good job. So
Correct.
they need to upgrade the strength of their army, and they need our blood to do so.
Okay, let's
keep an eye
fast
out.
forward through this
Be ready.
nonsense.
Stay vigilant. We see the mosquito. If I see that mosquito, he's dying.
Talking, which is, I believe, is quite a masculine trait. People think that if you're truly secure, you don't want a nice car, you don't want a fancy watch. I disagree. I think since the beginning of human time, men have always peacocked. We've always shown our value with material things. It doesn't matter if we went to war and killed the enemy and took a feather from the enemy and put it in our hat. Doesn't matter if we chopped our enemy's heads off. Doesn't matter if we took a piece of gold and wore it around our neck that we stole from some village we raided. We've always been peacocking to a degree. We've always been showing the world that we're valuable and that we're successful and that we've done something important. And peacocking is very important. But men have got this confused, and they think they can just use their mouths to elevate themselves without any genuine substance behind it.
And I'm going to say this, okay, because I'm glad he's already addressing the issue that I believe he's addressing, because there's a certain individual by the name, I'm going to say the name because I can say it, and I know probably a lot of you, and I hope a lot of my listeners don't follow him to the T, because does he have certain messages that are true and that are valuable? Absolutely, but I don't believe Zerka should be an individual that young men should be following. I just don't think. I think he's just too rambunctious. I think he's too, and I'm not going to say brutal when it comes to honesty, because when it comes to honesty, you should be brutal. But the way he represents that honesty, the way he addresses that honesty when it comes to insults is what I have a problem with. You don't need to insult someone to get your point across. And that's what he does. When there's certain girls on the show that he has a conversation with and he insults them, at the same time he delivers the message that I must admit is valuable, but is coupled with the insult to the female. So a lot of young men are gonna take that as, well, he insulted her, but at the same time his delivery was on point. So I think I can do that. I think that's the way to go, because let's admit it, there's a lot of young men out there that don't have common sense. I'm gonna be honest, and you have to be honest with yourself as well. There's a lot of young men that just don't have common sense. They're going to think that insulting a woman just to get your point across is the way to go, and that it's not the way to go. That's only going to develop animosity. The woman is not going to disrespect you, and you already lost her in the conversation the minute you insult her. The minute you insult a woman, you lost her in the conversation. There's no way she's going to listen to you any further. She's always going to be combative with you, even if you carry out the conversation after the insult. It's just going to continue. It's not going to get any better. I mean, there was one right here that is a very good point to what I just said. This is Zerka on Myron and on Myron's show, which is Fresh and Fit, having a conversation with a woman who actually brought a good point. She is wrong, but I like the fact that she's also has her own opinion, because it makes the show more interesting when a woman, despite it being wrong, has her own opinion.
How did you understand that, Martin? You understand? You speak retard, Martin? I was like, actually, I almost thought I lost. Yo. Martin, how did you download what she said? Wow. Fresh and I are looking at each other like, what the fuck?
John, that's not what you said earlier. And you sound disappointed. Like, it sounds like you're like, why would I get with women? Like, I'm trying to get with further resources than I can.
No. I still, even if I could touch the money, I don't care. I don't want a bitch's titties dragging to the oceans from the yacht. I'll still go for the pretty broke girl. Yo, we men can marry a broke McDonald's worker. Mm-hmm. Even if they had millions, we'd be like, nah, that bitch is ugly. That's Lizzo. I'm telling you, no man goes for resources. You think you have the selfish gender, yours.
I don't think like NBA players and like even rappers and stuff like that are marrying the female McDonald's cashier.
Compared to their income.
The conversation that they are having, let me skim through this really quick because I want to get back to the top G and the talisman. The conversation that they are having is, would a very rich, high individual man go for the broke female? And they absolutely will. They absolutely will. That's a no-brainer. And she's saying that they won't. Are there certain men that won't go for the broke female? Of course there are. Those are anomalies, though. Obviously, there's a lot of high-value men going for ladies that are rich themselves. We see that all the time. We see it all the time. But would a high-value man go for the broke girl? Yes, they will. They will. They absolutely will. As long as she's a high-valued woman with her own income, she doesn't even have to be rich. She just has to be high value when it comes to her characteristics. You know, low body count, respect, willing to submit, etc. But the fact that he had to go and call her retard was so disrespectful. And see, I believe that when Andrew Tate first came out, even though I never heard Andrew Tate say that word to a female during a conversation, but you remember Andrew Tate when he first released, he was not like that. To me, he was always respectful, but he never went that low as to where Zerka is going. And that's why I believe Zerka is not a good influence. I think he talks out of his ass a lot, I really do. I mean, there was another conversation he was carrying on with a woman, and all he was talking about, are we gonna fuck? Are we gonna have sex? Are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do that? During the conversation, I mean, and there's a lot of influencers that are saying, "Hey, you gotta listen to Zerka. This is the way you gotta talk to ladies." No, do not even listen to those influencers that are saying that, because how about you go outside right now and talk to a female the way Zerka is talking to that female? She might get her brother, and that brother may come and bust your ass. Of course, that way of talking may work for certain females. I'm not saying it won't. It may work for certain females. But the majority of females, for us individuals living in the real world, living in reality, when you go outside to work to your 9 to 5 and you see a woman that you're really interested in, you think you're going to talk the way Zerka talks to that woman that you're interested in? No, you're not going to talk like that to her. You're not. So let's stop the clown. Let's stop the clown game. I don't believe Zerka is a good influencer whatsoever. I just don't think he's a good influencer. And I think he's delivering the wrong messages to men to how to talk to a woman. And there's a lot of influencers that are stating that this is the way to talk to a woman. And that by no means is the correct way to go. I don't know why influencers are pushing Zerka to the point of insanity. Because the minute Zerka, I'm going to tell you this, the minute Zerka gets big, the minute Zerka's words start really impacting, especially impacting his income, as in being canceled, as in removing all his videos from social media, as in removing all his content from TikTok, and his money starts going down, I bet you Zerka will change. Zerka will be like, wow, I'm becoming a high individual, my words are having a high influence, and it has a consequence behind it. I gotta change. I gotta be more methodical with my delivery, and obviously I gotta mature. I bet you that will happen to Zerka. But let's continue.
And that's one of the largest mistakes, because that shows, one, insecurity, and two, when you're genuinely tested, and God will make sure that you are, you're going to fail. So it's very important you're not the kind of person who thinks, I understand I need to elevate myself as a man. I understand I need to be high status. I understand I need to be respected. I'm going to do that with a big mouth and no genuine capability to back that up. That's one of the biggest mistakes. In fact, it's extremely feminine.
And God's going to test you if you keep running your mouth.
God's going to test you. I really believe the reason we went to jail is because we became the most famous men in the world for our mental fortitude. And if you're going to be called the top G, and we're going to be the Tate brothers, and we're going to be known for our mental fortitude, God is going to test our mental fortitude by throwing us in a Romanian dungeon surrounded with cockroaches. There's no way you can become the top G of the planet. There's no way you can become the most famous brothers on earth and be respected for your mental fortitude and all the things you teach, and God not test you.
Because there are people out in the world who preach mental fortitude, etc., who break down whenever anything difficult happens to them.
Absolutely. And God is always watching. So it's very important you're not just somebody with a big mouth. You have to have some genuine things to back it up.
Exactly. You having a big mouth, you constantly berating the person that you're talking to get your delivery across, doesn't make you high value, doesn't even make you important. It makes you a very combative person. It makes you the very person that you're telling young men to avoid. Because if that's the way you have a conversation with a woman, if your delivery is all about insults and berating and trying to downgrade the person's characteristics just to get your point across, then you're the very individual that you're telling young men to avoid. And that's, to me, who Zerka is. Despite, like I said earlier, he does have a lot of good messages. It's the way, this is when it very, you know, when Myron says a lot of ladies like the message, but they just don't like my delivery. He's way different than Myron. Myron doesn't talk the way Zerka talks. Zerka literally insults in his delivery. Literally has a name called out to these females while he's delivering. If there's no way an adult conversation is going to carry on the way he has these conversations. There's no way. Hey, but that's just me.
substance. And I feel like a lot of you didn't have a present father or a strong father figure to emulate. So you have no frame of reference for masculinity. So you see these idiots with a big mouth online. You think having a big mouth is going to be enough. And it's not enough for God. It's not enough for the reality of the world, because if you walk around with a big enough mouth, eventually you're going to get checked and get the shit kicked at you.
Yep.
And it's also not enough for females. You need to understand that if you convince a woman you're high value with your mouth and your mouth alone, sooner or later she's going to realize you are a liar. And that is when she's going to leave you. So if you're sitting at home thinking, well, I had this girl, she thought I was the man. A few months later, she's not that interested in me. Yeah, because she got to know you better. She saw behind the bravado, and she saw that you don't really have any genuine real world achievements. You haven't really done anything that's super interesting. You have to do things that make men respect you for women to respect you. And usually those things require a degree of bravery. Men have always been respected for our bravery. We did the brave thing. And it is the brave thing on the other side of fear, which is going to build your character and build your internal self-belief. But it's also going to build a magic inside of you that a woman can see when she looks inside of your eyes. It's also going to build a magic inside of you that people can see when they look in your eyes. When people look in my eyes, they know I've been brave, and they know I'll be brave again. And they don't want to test my bravery because they know it exists, and they know it's been tested. They know it is real. So this is very important. People confuse this and say, oh yeah, confident men don't talk, confident men don't brag. And they're saying that because a lot of people who are bragging have nothing to back it up. Once again, I slightly disagree. If you have enough to back it up, you are allowed to brag. But you have to make sure there are real world achievements and you're not living in any kind of delusion.
And this is what I'm saying about certain influencers. I thought that Sneeko was getting better. I thought Sneeko was gonna really change his ways when he went into the religious side of things. But now he's hanging with Zerka. Now you see Sneeko with Zerka all the time. I find that very odd, because if you're a religious man, why are you hanging out with Zerka, who's literally berating the ladies that he's talking to, literally saying, hey, do you wanna have sex? Do you wanna give me head right now? And all of this and that and the third. And you're next to him, not even checking him. You're not even saying, yo, relax, dude. Like, we're having a conversation here. Nobody checks him. Not even not even Fresh and Fit, to be honest with you, despite the fact that I do like Myron. Fresh, I just, like, you guys already know how I feel about him. Nobody checks Zerka whatsoever. So, to me, Sneeko has once again taken a step back. And I really think Sneeko is just with the who's popular now. I really think that's Sneeko's character. Who's popular, that's the way I'm going to act. Because obviously he went to the religious side when Tate went to the religious side. Now Zerka's getting really popular, so now he's hanging with Zerka. So I think Sneeko doesn't have an identity. I think he follows who's popular. And that to me is a no-no. And once again, I believe his influence as well is not to be followed. Because if you're partner in crime is Zerka, because remember, you are who you hang out with. So if you're hanging out with Zerka and you're down with the way he's talking to these ladies on the panel, then I have no respect for you whatsoever. And once again, you have taken a step back when you have taken a step forward when you came out and you were on the religious side. And that episode that you had on Fresh and Fit, when everybody started noticing that you were on the religious side, you actually presented yourself in such a manner that commanded respect, and I really enjoyed that episode. But now you're hanging with Zerka everywhere, and to me that has taken you back. I mean, your character has taken a lot of hits. But let's continue.
Absolutely everything as a man is your responsibility. It's your responsibility to become your best and brightest version of yourself. And you're not going to do that simply by talking it into existence. You need to live it into existence. You need to go out there and do things which are genuinely difficult, genuinely stressful, which are genuinely scary, so you can become the man you want to be. So you have to take responsibility for these things, and you have to seek them and choose and find the correct difficulties for you to overcome, so you can build a character worth having. It's the information that you absorb and what you do with it that will ultimately mold and shape who you want to become. So every single one of you who is watching this, you're in the right place at the right time. We're going to give you some very important information today. I hope you implement it and you use it as a version of yourself. But it's also very important that you curate the world you live in, you curate your reality, you curate the information you absorb, and you're not sitting there absorbing garbage from loudmouth idiots or matrix programming that's designed to keep you inside of the slave mind. You have to be very careful with the things you consume. So I want you to think at home, before we read the super chats, which we're about to do, I want you to think, besides your loud mouth, what do you have that make people know you're truly a man? What do you have? I can name some things, right? People walk in my house, they can see, okay, I'm financially successful. They look at my body, they know I'm motivated, disciplined, I'm extremely strong. They look.
Notice, he's saying all of these things so people can witness what really makes a high value man a high value man. Not your mouth. Your mouth, the way you talk to ladies, disrespect them, the way you berate people, the way you want to fight online against guys, the way you want to show people you're a tough guy, it doesn't make you a high value man. It makes you look like a fool. Because there's a lot of young men following Zerka for some odd reason, and I understand there's a lot of men who really yearn for that father figure. They really do, because obviously there's a lot of absentee fathers in families because of the fact that the relationship didn't work. They got kicked out. A lot of fathers choose not to be in their kids' lives, and it's understandable. A lot of these men try to look for a father figure, but Zerka is not the father figure you want to look after. You don't. He's not a good influencer, I'm telling you. I mean, listen, like I said, this podcast will be on my YouTube, so you can leave your comments there and let me know what you think. I'm really interested in hearing what you guys think about all of this, because like I always say, I don't stand above correction. I would really like to hear what you guys think about this whole situation. Let's continue.
Look at my world title belt, say, no, I can fight. They look at the woman on my arm, they know that I am worthy of respect because she treats me with absolute respect. They look at my network, they see that men treat me with absolute respect. I don't have to open my mouth and people can instantly look at me and go, okay, he has X, Y, and Z. If you couldn't talk, you put on a t-shirt, you put on some jeans, and you can't talk, and you're walking around the world, when people look at you, why do they see you as a high-value man? Do you have anything you project? Do you project true bravery? Do you project true confidence? Or do you need to talk to try and convince people of these things? They say confidence is quiet. It can also be very loud, but you don't want to live in a delusion. That's the first thing. So I want every single person here who's actually taking notes to think, if I can't talk, how am I judged? If I can't speak, what do people think of me? How am I projecting my value to the world if I can't say a word? That's the most important thing. Let's read the super chats before we continue.
Yeah, Zorik said, shout out from the War Room, Conquer the Earth gentleman, $200 super chat. Top G Commandants, $500 super chat, said, I'm a student from the Content Creation Artificial Intelligence campus in Hustlers University. I ask, what should you do to separate yourself from the competition and stand out from others that are making content?
Perfect. You're in exactly the right place at the right time. We're going to talk about exactly that, because a lot of people who are making content, because you speak into a microphone, think that speaking is enough. The reason we have such a strong brand is not just because we speak, it's because we are talking about a life we have lived, experiences which have happened, things we have done, and things we are capable of doing. We genuinely are saving the world, donating $25 million a year. Nobody else can say that. Nobody else has the capability to do it, or the heart, or the gumption, or the balls, or even the capability to organize feeding people in a war-torn country. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to even feed people in Iran?
Yeah.
Think about the logistics of it.
To avoid scammers and people on the ground who want to take your money and not do anything useful with it.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to do these things.
You need a network.
You need a network, and you need people
to be respected, and you need to be trusted, essentially, and you need to trust others, but you need people who you can trust, and me and Andrew have that.
Absolutely. So you're talking about how do you make content that makes you stand out? Well, if you stand out as a man, then your content will stand out, because you'll have exactly the right things to say, and you'll be trusted and believed, because people will see in your eyes and know that you're more than just a loud mouth.
It's so ironic, right? And it's so interesting that he keeps bringing out the loud mouth, because like I said, we all know who he's talking about, but he doesn't want to mention the name. All right? I'm going to say this, in my opinion. For people to respect you as a man, you have to have a way about yourself that commands respect. And you're not going to do that by walking into a room, eyeballing people down, berating people as soon as the conversation starts, trying to basically puff out your chest to allow everyone to see that you're the high value individual in the room. You're not going to do that. You won't need to do that, because if you're a high value individual, people are going to see it. Your aura is you're going to exuberate that aura. They're going to notice. And as soon as the conversation starts, the way you deliver messages is going to also be noticed. If you can hold your emotions in check, that also makes you a high value individual. And let's be honest, if you're in shape, that also is noticeable. Because a man who's in shape, or a woman who's in shape, already starts out well in the eyes of someone they don't know. Like when you walk into a room and somebody is about to meet you, and you walk into that room and they see you're in shape, they already know that this person has some type of discipline in their life. Because if they're willing to keep themselves in shape, they have discipline. They do. When you see a woman walk into a room, right, and she's in shape, you already know that woman right there has some type of level of discipline. Just like when you see a man who walks in a room and he's in shape. But remember what he said in the beginning of the meeting. That's not the only thing that is needed. It's the way you talk to individual as well. It's the way you also have respect for them when you're delivering your messages. Loudmouth is not the way, folks.
So I want everybody here who's watching this, I consider this a matter of social responsibility. I want you to pull up a chair and eliminate all the distractions, because I'm going to speak to each and every one of you as if you were my son or a student or someone I'm trying to mentor. I'm going to imagine that all of you know nothing, and we're talking from the complete ground up how to become the best versions of yourself. Because manhood is exceptionally hard, and life is hard. But how you shape yourself will determine how hard it is for you and how miserable it will be. I've said this many times in many different iterations on different podcasts, but I want to repeat it again. As a man, there is no easy life. If you're looking for an easy life, you should have been a girl. You made a mistake.
Yep.
Your life is not about being easy. Your life is not about being happy. Your life is always going to be difficult. All of the pain you feel, all of the sadness you feel, you're supposed to feel as a man, and you have two effective binary choices. You either go through the suffering and go through the trauma and go through the hardship it takes to be a man of value, or you suffer eternity as a nobody. And being invisible, I would argue, is almost worse. You can have a very stress-free life if you work in Starbucks. You don't care about the Starbucks once you clock off. You're not at work at the time. You go home, you play video games, and you exist until you die. That's stress-free, but you have to suffer being a nobody. Alternatively, you can go out there into the world, try and implement your mark on the world, work hard, try to get rich, more money, more problems. You can try and start a business, the stress of that. You can lose your girlfriend because all you're doing is working. This is a new level of stress, a new level of trauma, but at least you'll be a somebody at the end of it. There's two ways to suffer. You either suffer to become a somebody, or you suffer as a perpetual and forever nobody. What did Napoleon say?
He said, glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever.
Absolutely.
That is true. What Napoleon said. That is so true. Napoleon said a lot of interesting things. I think Jordan Peterson mentioned it in one of his podcasts too. I could be wrong, but I do believe Jordan Peterson mentioned it.
Absolutely. Glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever. And when he says fleeting, that's a really good point, because everything in life is rented, especially your glory as a man. When you have a good body, it is not a good body as complete. It's not finished. You haven't completed the task. You have rented that good physical condition. You must train every day to retain it.
We're going to keep talking as normal. We're aware of the DDoS attack. We're aware that new people can't join. However, for the 60 or 70,000 of you who are in the chat right now, good, you are seeing us, and we will continue this, and we will you'll be able to watch this in retrospect once it's uploaded. So we're aware of the DDoS attack. It's being worked on.
Absolutely. So everything is rented. Your body, you don't just get a good body and you're done. You still have to go to the gym every day to maintain that good body. You don't just get a hot girl and it's done. You still have to work hard for her to always love you and respect you. You don't just start a business and now you're rich. No, you have to start a business and work on that business every day. If you take your eye off the business, it will fail. Everything in life is rented. So when he says glory is fleeting, he's also absolutely not correct, because glory is fleeting and you have to constantly and endlessly work for it and make sure that you never stop. Otherwise, it will be taken from you. But obscurity is forever. If you never make a mark on the world, then you effectively never existed.
Yeah.
And when you're gone, nobody will care. The reason our Father is discussed at length is because of who me and Tristan are, and the reason we will be discussed forever is because who our sons will become.
That is so true. That I really like that delivery. It is so interesting, this emergency meeting that he had with his brother, because he explains a lot. And this is when you got to put your personal feelings aside for the Tate brothers. I know they're going through a court situation. A lot of people deem them guilty already, whatever the case may be. That's how you can tell a person's maturity. When the person that you're listening to, you dislike or even wholeheartedly don't want to listen to them whatsoever. But when you happen to listen to them and you hear their message, you can put your personal feelings aside and say, you know what, that message is true. The message he's saying, despite the person I believe he is true, and it will work well for young men. But there's a lot of people you can't have a conversation with. There's a lot of people that can't put their personal aside, because that also explains their maturity. Because when they can't put their personal aside, their personal feelings aside, you know you can't have a conversation with that person. You know when you have a lengthy conversation with that person, in the moment you guys disagree, that conversation is going to go left. Not because of you, but because of their level of maturity. Let's continue.
And that's very important, because you have a duty to your ancestors and you have a duty to God. So you must make a choice. And this is genuine choice for you people at home. Do you want to live in obscurity forever and be invisible and not matter and have an easier life? I would argue that it's not easier, because in your heart and in your soul, you're going to feel guilty knowing you could have been something you're not, and you have a duty to your ancestors and to God to be the best version of yourself. Or do you want to try your absolute best and struggle and suffer every day of your life, paying the rent for all of the amazing things around you? We pay endless rent. We pay rent for our bodies. We pay rent for our relationships. We pay rent to keep our kids. We pay rent to keep our business. We pay rent to keep our freedom. Every single day is work to pay the rent. It's absolutely never ending, and you have to make that choice. So if you have a pen and paper in front of you, you need to decide. Do you want to be invisible with a lower rent bill, or do you want to be important and work hard and suffer to make sure that the rent is paid? Is it?
That's what the word rent is so important, and the way he's using it is so important, because that is so true. Because obviously, if you work out in the gym, your body's not going to stay that way. It's not going to stay that way if you don't continue to train. Because if you stop training, obviously your body is going to lose some muscle. You're going to start getting lazy. You're going to start getting abstinent in what you're putting in your mouth. You're basically going to start eating junk food. So the way he's using the word rent is so important here. I love the way he's using it. You gotta. This emergency meeting is such a high quality meeting. It's better than the other emergency meetings he's had, because there's a lot of truth and a lot of delivery that is making sense. And that's why he said you got to take your pen out, because for the simple fact that he mentioned his father. Remember, his father worked hard. His father busted his ass every day. His father was basically broke, but everybody now knows who his father is because of what he did for his sons. That is so extraordinary.
Choice you must make, and it's binary, and you must be extremely dedicated towards the decision you finally make. As Tristan said, we understand there's a big DDoS attack right now. We're going to wait for that. What super chats do we have?
None. I can't. We can't access super chats right now. DDoS attack. Matrix attack.
Is it that mosquito?
Is it the mosquito? It might be the mosquito.
Once again, they're going into
the
mosquito.
I don't know where he is. We have to wait for him to try and come to us.
Well, obviously he's on a computer somewhere.
He's got our targets.
He's on a computer somewhere doing the DDoS.
They are getting DDoS attack, obviously, because of the message that they're delivering. And obviously they always are going to get DDoS attacked. So this emergency meeting will be linked on this subscription, the description of this podcast episode, so you can watch it at length and comfortable. I'm gonna say this one thing before I close, because I'm gonna tell you one thing about this emergency meeting. This emergency meeting was needed. It was needed because a lot of young men are following the wrong influences. A lot of young men are in search for a father in their life. So they're following the wrong individuals, believing that the way they present themselves is the way they should represent themselves. A lot of young men are not realizing that that's not the way to go. That the way to represent yourself is a part of what makes you a high value man. Ignorance is not the way. Rambunctious is not the way. The proper way to do it is the way that these two young men described. And I really recommend that you listen to this entire emergency meeting and put your feelings aside if you're one of those individuals that basically deems them guilty already. If you deem them guilty, then by all means, you're entitled to your opinion. But the message delivered here, especially if you're a woman who has a son and for some odd reason your son is listening to them and you don't think your son should be listening to them, have him listen to this message, because you don't even know if your son is following the other individuals that these men are talking about. You don't know that. You don't know that. Maybe he's listening to these other individuals and leaving the messages that these young men are basically describing behind. Because I'm going to tell you one thing, though. Those other messages that are being delivered now are very dangerous. Are very dangerous. Because despite the fact that Jordan Peterson describes a lot of ways to being a high value man and being a respectable man at that, a lot of these young men are not gonna listen. There's a lot of men that are gonna listen to Jordan Peterson because Jordan Peterson is very knowledgeable, but obviously Jordan Peterson's charisma is not gonna attract a lot of these young men. What's gonna attract a lot of these young men are people like the Tate brothers and Zerka, Myron, those individuals that are kind of high rambunctious. That's why I say if you're gonna allow these young men to follow someone, I would say that the Tate brothers are the best logical choice in my opinion. And like I said, I don't stand above correction, so we can have this conversation at length as soon as I post this podcast episode on my YouTube channel. So as always, I thank you for sitting on my table. Make sure you leave your opinions on my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. Hopefully that drink was still up and running by the end of this episode. This is Black Shy Guy. I'm out of here. Peace.
Arch criminal who must be put away. Another innocent victim of suicidal maniac.